Hello everyone. See voting room. I see that. Admit. Let me admit everyone. Hi Rohi. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
I could not really hear you properly, but I'll assume you can hear me, right? Or maybe you can write on the chat.
Yeah, I can hear you. Am I not audible? Hello? Hello?
Give me 1 minute. Yeah, I think this should be better now, right? Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, this one is better actually. There's some problem with my other headphone. No problem. I think we all have joined, so why don't we give it a start? Okay, so you were able to hear me clearly from the uh, earlier case as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, but I was not able to hear anything. So let me just see what is going on over here because I'm not able to start my VM. Why is that so? Let's see. Console.aws.amazon.com. Give me 2 minutes, friends. Network connection timed out. Okay. Let's see. Let me share my screen already. So share. Yeah. Let me just log in. Yeah, this should be the password. There's some slowness. Okay, maybe meanwhile, while it is logging in, we can do kind of, let's say, Q&A. Are there any questions from anybody from, maybe if you have seen the video of yesterday, any questions from anyone?
No, Sudha, not yet seen the video.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
but no
I'll see
problem
today.
because it was really very basic. I mean, I'll just brief just for a quick recap. What we did yesterday is that, as you can see on my screen, right? So we did not really log into console, but we had that VM, right, which we created by last week. So we logged on to that virtual machine and we followed a few steps to install MySQL. So those steps are really generic. That's the reason why specifically I have not shared them. If you all want, I can share those links, but if you go to Google, you'll find them. Even I did the same. I mean, I went to Google, I searched for how to download, how to install, and how to change the root password. That's the 3-step process that we need to follow. We started with MySQL, but we have also agreed that we will look into, let's say, the Oracle side of things once MySQL basics are done. Because there are some things in MySQL which is a bit different, let's say, when it comes to MySQL and when it comes to Oracle, because Oracle is a bit more enterprise, but MySQL, at least the one that we are using, is completely open source. So I see no issue over here. Monitoring says it's all good. Status checks, let me see. Status check says it is reachable. Then why am I not able to connect? I don't understand. Let me just see what is happening here. session. Load. Yeah, this is correct. So maybe my IP address has changed. Why not I go to view inbound rules? It should be my IP. Okay, let me just check this again. Maybe my IP address has changed and that's why it's not working. For time being, maybe I can even set to open the world, or let me just see, edit and send. Yeah, you see my IP has changed. That's why this is the case. Usually that is almost always the case. There is no other thing. Usually that's the main problem with not having a static IP. We seldom not able to log in. Now see, I'm able to log in, right? So what we have done until yesterday, let me just switch, or let me just log in into MySQL. So I'll use the same password which I had set yesterday, right? And there we did a show databases, and we could see that all the by default information schema, MySQL, performance, and sys, these were there already. I don't have to care about them. But classroom is something I've created. Okay, create database classroom, something I've created. I'll use this database, use classroom. Okay, classroom. Okay, and then I can do a show tables. Yesterday we started with creating one table, that is students. We said we will be creating 3 tables. Okay, let me just quickly tell you what those 3 tables will be. So we were creating notepad files while we were creating notepad files while we were doing our work. So let me just cat this file called R tables. Let me just quickly confirm one thing. Hi Chandan, can you hear us?
Hello, hi.
Hello.
Yes, Sudha, I'm able to hear it.
Okay.
But unfortunately, I have to log in within 10 minutes. I joined the meeting.
Okay.
I'll be there stand. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. No problem.
I'm there, yeah.
Okay, so in this file, we wrote down how many tables do we need. I mean, this is just for the practice purpose. We will create 3 tables. We'll put some, let's say, absolutely bogus or dummy data, and then we'll play around with SQL. So that's the plan. Now, the first table is created. But what we saw is when we are creating this table, just by giving the name of the columns, it didn't work. We had to give the exact, let's say, data types. Either it was integer or it was, let's say, string, which was represented as variable character or varchar. And then for string, especially, let's say in this case for varchar, we had to provide the size. If I again go to MySQL, if I again log into MySQL, give me 1 minute. Sorry, I think I've put my password wrong. Okay, so use classroom and describe students. Okay, so I have created this table. SID is the student ID, name of the student, login, the login ID which student will use, age, again an integer, the age, and GPA. We were explaining these fields. Let's quickly go through them once more and then we can start. Null, this is an identifier to specify if any of these fields are going to be nullable or not. Every one of these fields are mentioned as null, which means that I can skip in my insert statements when I'm going to insert the data, the commands. I can choose not to put any value to any of the field, and then also I will be having a row. Okay, this is a really, really bad DB design, but just for a testing, this is what we are doing. Okay, if you're not going to insert intentionally any bad values, but this column or this description is what it signifies. Is there going to be a null value or no null value? That's all. Okay, if it is no, usually no comes in case of, let's say, if it is a unique key or a primary key, right? Then in that case, it will be no. The second is key. Obviously, as I said, if it is a primary key, then that's the unique identifier within the table. It will always have a unique value in that column for each and every row, and that will be represented over here. Okay, so that will be represented over here. I have not created any unique key, that's why there is nothing. The third column is default. Default is where what I do is if I have created the table in certain way that I give a default value, then while inserting the data in this table, I don't have to specify every time the value for that column. Example given, let's say GPA, the example which we took yesterday. GPA can be set to a default value, let's say, rather than null, I can set it to 0. Right, because unless and until I take exams for the students, how will I come to know how much marks they've scored? Hence I cannot calculate their GPA. Simple. So when inserting a new student record, I may choose not to enter the GPA because maybe the student has just joined the college, right? So the default value, I can put it as 0. Later on, maybe when he or she passes an exam, right, or appears for an exam, gets a grade, I'm going to give that person the GPA out of 5, right? So that's the usage of that field. But for us, we have not done anything of that sort. That's why it's on null. What is extra? This is like the comments section. Okay, so if you want to put any comment or any special attribute, we may not be doing that in terms of, let's say, data science, but it may well be there. So it is good to understand each and every table that we are going to use. That is the reason why this command is really useful. Please study this command's output whenever you have access to any DB where your business is saying that you have your data in this so-called classroom schema within this MySQL database. Here is your access and password. Go ahead, access the DB. The first thing I do is that I'll log into that DB. I'll go to the schema using this use command that I've done here. I'll go through each and every table. Okay, irrespective of whether somebody has created an Oracle level documentation for me, right? I mean, irrespective of what kind of a documentation I get, I don't care. I will myself check. Okay, I will myself go to each and every table. I must check each and every detail there. Now, let's not waste time and let's try to create the rest of the tables. The rest of the tables, the second table will be create. What is the second table? Let me see. Second table is this enrolled. Okay, let me copy from here. This will be easy. So create table, paste. Where is control? Yeah, this is paste. I just want to create table called enrolled. SID will be integer. Course ID will be integer. CID represents course ID, and grade I will call this varchar 2 1. Okay, I could have used any other data type as well if it is really supported. As I said yesterday, you don't have to remember all the data types that is supported by any DB. Extensively, they documented these days. Go to the documentation, you will find it. Right, so you can use anything of your choice. So why I'm saying this here specifically is because, let's say, in this grade column, I may want to put values like A, B, or C. Right, this is just the grade of specifying a student, although I personally do not believe in the grade. But if in that case, as you see, the length of the grade is only 1 character, which means there may well be some other data type like car, okay, or char, which can store very small objects or very small text like this. Usually variable character varchar or varchar2 is usually for, let's say, cases where we have, no, I'm sorry, varchar2 is an Oracle thing. So varchar is usually used for cases where I have alphabet, numerics, and then special characters and so on. Okay, but usage of this varchar is like I'm trying to kill a mosquito with a big gun, right? But that's fine. You can also do that as well. That is not going to disturb anything, but there can be other data types as well. That's what I wanted to inform, right? So let's just create this table and let's create the third table as well. Then we will start ingesting some data. So let me just say create table, paste, and here, obviously, name of the course, I'm going to say varchar, I don't know, let me put it 50. Okay, it can be a big name. So course ID, obviously integer, done. Let me say show tables. Okay, so in the list of the tables, this is something we talked yesterday as well. I do show tables. I see only the list of tables. I don't see any property of that table. There are other ways to get the property. If in case I don't have access to get the property of those tables, right, then I can get it from some other place. Like I can contact my DBA. I can ask that DBA to, log into my sys schema. As we discussed yesterday, sys schema was the schema where I have all the metadata information of my database. So which user, where it has created what, which query it has fired, all this information, all the metadata is there within sys information schema and all these things. So I can go to my MySQL database DBA and I can request him, sir, if you can clearly tell me who created this table at which date and at which time. They should be able to tell you that. Yeah, so no problem. But from show tables output, from a user's perspective, from our perspective, we won't be able to say anything more than this. If I want to say anything more, obviously I'm going to do a describe of, let's say, enrolled. Okay, and then I can see what is the structure, what is the DDL, the data definition language that I've used to create the table. So these commands that I'm firing, these are data definition languages, right? So 3 tables we have. Now we need some data. Okay, and then we are going to start with our first list of queries and functions and so on. Okay, any doubts until now?
No,
So we are
Sudha.
quite well to go.
Okay, okay, then let's try to insert some data. Maybe I will start with I don't know, student table. Okay, so when I'm writing data to a table, there are two things that I can do. Obviously, you might find this a bit boring, but I just wanted to start from the very basic step because we have a very mixed kind of an audience. You have people who have no experience in DB, right? So just to overcome that, we will do it from the very basics, keeping in mind uh, if we are going to insert data or load data, there are multitude of ways. Okay, what we are doing now is just one of the ways where you have to manually write down each and every value, by means of which you can add a new row into a table. Obviously, these tables are empty. Okay, how can we verify? That is also a question which we are going to see now. So if we have to load or if we have to put new values, we use statements which are inserts. These are called DMLs. And we can also use updates, which are also kind of DMLs. And update statements are going to update an existing row which is already there in the table. If you fire an update, the matching row doesn't there, or it does not exist there, or the key is not found, it is going to give an error. So insert update, the most common things that we are going to use. Please don't use any delete commands, because as part of our role in doing the data analysis, we should only be deleting things when we create temporary tables, right? Temporary tables is going to be a very important concept for the data science related workflows, because when we have to prepare data, lots and lots of temporary tables will be created. Okay, it may even go to thousands. Okay, I have seen DBs in my own experience where I have temporary tables counting to thousands. Okay, there is a reason behind it. When we go through the ETL process, then we will come to know. But in one shot, I want to insert some data, I want to load some data, clear cut. The data that I want to load can be done in two ways: insert and update, insert and update. Okay, so this is the main thing that I'm going to do. Let's insert some data into student, followed by enrolled, and followed by course. Or maybe we'll start with student, then we'll go to course, followed by enrolled. Okay, so how do I insert the data? And even more important, how do I look at the data which is already there in the table? So what I do, I would like to select everything from a table called student. Okay, so this is the command to do this. So select everything. Star represents everything. Star has a different meaning as well when we are going to look at regular expressions. But here, star means give me everything which is there in students. And it says empty set, which means there is no data. Okay, please remember this. Set is exactly what we saw in Python. And that is exactly how MySQL stores it, with an exception. Please don't think that in MySQL we will have set as if we have unique data in the set. Okay, it is just calling it a set as in it is a set of data. That's it. Okay, interrelated to each other. So students table is going to have data for students. That's why it is interrelated. That's why it's called set. Okay, it does not mean that when we looked into Python, we have looked into sets. And sets in Python has a very different concept altogether. It's unique. Okay, let's say in Python, I have a set of 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5. These are the elements. If I do an output, or if I print the set, I'm going to get the values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, it's going to remove the duplicates. That's not going to happen in this table. If you have duplicates, you have to remove it. You have to identify it yourself. You have to remove it yourself, right? So let's try to insert. So insert, I would like to insert a new data into the table. Into is a clause or keyword, into the table students. Okay, and I'm going to say values, and then inside brackets, I'm going to pass the values, right? In this case, values is not a function. It is just a nomenclature. Functions we will look into later. Okay, we will be using a lot of function because all our workflow as a data analyst will be basis functions only. Okay, seldom we may have to write any procedures and all these things. We may want to quickly look into procedures later, but procedures is something we may use, we may not use. Majority will be done using functions. We will touch base among some functions today as well once we are done inserting the data. But when we are inserting this values thing, okay, which has a bracket, it looks like a function. If I compare this to Python, this is not a function. This is yet again an identifier. The identifier gives me a placeholder. The placeholder is where I will enter data within that bracket, within the placeholder, as per the order of the columns in the table. So you must know what is the order of the columns in the table, right? To do that, let me just not to take any risk, I just want to see the order. Describe, I think I made a spelling mistake. Okay, so this is the order. Is there any other way to overcome this? Yes, you can specify the column name and the value. Column name and the value. In that way, you can also mix and match. Example, if I only write insert into student values and then I want to write the values within the bracket, I have to follow the order. First SID, then name, then login, then age, then GPA. I can play around with this as well. Okay, that also works. But let me just go with the default and most easy option. Insert into students values something. Okay, something is, let's say the first student ID is 53666. Okay, the name of the student, I don't know, Rohi, right? His login ID is Rohi @CSE2020, right? And let's say his age is, let's say 25, and his GPA, I have to enter some GPA. Maybe I'm going to enter, let's say 3.5. Okay, I'm entering a GPA here which is like against what we think a GPA might mean, but this is just to simulate the scenario where I already have some data in the DB. That's why I'm not considering a GPA to be 0. Okay, so if the moment I do this, the data is there in the table. Okay, please note, the moment I fire this command, the data is there in the table. What I mean by that is the data is there in the background. Okay, in the background there is some file, on some disk, and that file now has this data. Why I'm stressing on this point, not all the databases will work like this. There will be databases, example given Oracle, you have to explicitly commit the statement using a commit command like this. Okay, you have to explicitly commit the data. In MySQL, at least in the community edition, as far as I've seen, you don't have to commit the data is there. Okay, how do I look at the data? Again, I can go back to my select start statement. I'm using this up down keys on my keyboard. Okay, so using up and down keys in my keyboard, I can scroll through the history of the commands that I've fired. Just a quick tip. So if I do a select start from students, now I have one student. Right. Similarly, let me add some more students as well. So let's say I have another student who has a GPA 3.9. I don't know, age 26. Okay. The student is, let's say, from the IT, information technology department, and his name is, let's say, Saransh. So that is his ID, and his name is given as this. I'm intentionally doing something over here. After I insert, I will tell you. Okay, or maybe you can guess what I'm trying to do. Okay, what I'm trying to do here is, you see the problem I have created. This is one of the most common problems you will find in your experience when you're playing with any data. Doesn't matter whether it is in a database. This is where your skills of cleaning the data will come into picture. This is where your skills of using SQL or using pandas library in Python will come handy. See the problem here, the data entry operator, someone idiotic like me, entered the first name of the student in the first row. Okay, Rohi has a title. Obviously, everybody has a title. Okay, I know his title, right? But I did not enter his title there. I only entered his first name. I did not enter his last name. Obviously, there is only one column, so I should not assume anything. In the name field, I should enter both. Or I should have some kind of a consistency. In all the rows, I should enter only the first name. But the blunder I did, in the first row, I have entered the first name. In the second row, I have entered first name as well as the last name. Okay, this is a very common problem. You'll see all such kind of problems when you look at very bad or very unstructured kind of data. Why I say unstructured, although it has a schema, but people who are entering it are idiots. They did not do their job in the right way. They did not follow a certain kind of, it's a procedure, and that's why they are idiots. They don't think that they are really foolish or they don't know how to write SQL. They know, right? But they may not have any guidelines. Okay, there is a lot of cases where we may not have any guidelines how we must store the data. That's where all these problems will come. It is up to you. It is entirely your responsibility. Please don't get back to the application team asking to fix their data. They may not be in a position to fix it. Whomsoever is entering this this value over here, irrespective of whether they are idiotic or whether they are geniuses, I should not be saying that actually, but they may not be in a position to change their application to behave in a different way just because there is a data analyst like you who wants to analyze the data. Okay, you have to clean it yourself using the techniques you know. Okay, let's insert the last. Maybe the last student is even bad, so 3.5. Age is, let's say, 25 again. I'll say this is I don't know, mechanical. Okay, mechanical engineering, and I'm going to put my name here. So this is my ID. Maybe I'm going to make it even interesting. Okay, ASB, and here also I'm going to intentionally, I'm actually making some mistakes over here because that's going to make our life interesting later on. Okay, so what I have done now, again, a very intelligent thing I have done. First name and last name are entered. Okay, first name is in lower characters, last name is in full upper characters. Okay, again, if this is a problem for you, you have to fix it. You have to use functions, which we are going to see to fix it. Okay, so students table is done. Maybe we can stop here with the students table. Let's put things into the rest of the tables. Okay, so let's go with, let's say, I don't know, course table. Okay, so course table has how many columns? Let me just see. Let me just quickly see. Why is it not scrolling? Yes. Okay, so enrolled, I saw course had three columns, I believe. No, two columns. Sorry, I have two columns in course table. One is the course ID. The other one is the name of the course. So maybe I'll give a course ID 1, and course ID 1 is, let's say, database systems. Okay, sorry. So this should be course. Okay, column count does not match a value count at row 1. Okay, so why is this coming as an error? Is because we have not specified any default values. Had it been the case we specified default values for these three, I wouldn't have got the error. The first value expected is integer. I entered an integer. The second value expected is varchar 50. I entered a varchar 50. It would have inserted it into the table called students. Had it been the case, the rest of the columns had a default value because they are already nullable. Okay, please note this. Now I'll enter this. One course is entered. The second course, I don't know. I don't know, data science. Okay. Yeah, Mugdha, go ahead.
Sudha, see, for this now, we got the error because the column count and values did not match.
Yeah.
Suppose in the schema, we have two tables. Suppose this course and students table would have had the same number of rows. Then data would have got inserted, right?
So student
In
also
that
has
case,
two
yeah,
columns.
suppose students had two columns and course also had two columns.
Yes.
Then data would have got inserted.
Yes.
So the ETL things, do they apply here also on these kind of values as well? Can we
Well,
identify these also?
yes, I mean, in many ETL, let's say, scenarios, we also do things like checks, okay, of let's say data quality. So once we are done with entering the data, we also check for the data quality. Especially a very common check which we do in case of ETL is we try to compare what is there on source as opposed to what is there on target. Right? Example, when you are actually going to do ETL, right, there's some software which is going to run these inserts for you, right? You won't be writing it, obviously.
Okay.
You'll be writing kind of a code which is going to, let's say, go through a CSV file. Okay, so let's say you have a scenario like you have all the data in a CSV, you have written a .SQL script, and that script is going to read from this file, and then it is going to load it into the table. Right. So once you are done, maybe there is one section in your shell script or one section in your Python code which is going to check for whether I'm matching the data, okay, in the source as opposed to the target or not. So that's where you can do the data checks, right? That's where you can do the quality checks. But you are right. If you go only by the command and the syntax, okay, then what you said is correct. If student had two columns, SID and name, and course also had 2 columns here, obviously CID and name, then that
Yeah,
2
it would be
values,
difficult to identify.
yeah, yes, it can get inserted
Okay.
from course. Let me see if all the values are inserted. Very good. Right. Okay. So the third, before we go into the third, why not select star from employees? Okay. Oh no, sorry. Why employees? Students. Sorry. Okay. So why not look at a very quick kind of a function from here? Okay. Whatever functions we are going to use will either be to select the data or to summarize the data. This is the most prominent classes of functions that we'll use. So it will either be to select certain number of rows or certain number of columns, may or may not be basis some kind of filters, or it will be basis some kind of a calculation. Okay, so let's see some examples. I see I have 5 columns over here. Maybe for my data analysis, later on this is going to prove very useful when we do machine learning. ID field does not mean anything for anybody. Right? Example, in this table, I see that Sarang's age 26, GPA 3.9, has a student ID 53688. I can consider that number as an attribute of the user, not a characteristic. I cannot call Sarang's by that number. I can call him by his name. I can remember by the fact that he is out of these 3 students, he is the one who has got the maximum GPA, right? But that student ID does not signify anything, which means I really don't need to care about the student ID. I can care about the name. Maybe not even the name. When I'm doing, let's say, machine learning, I may only be interested about how long or how lengthy the login ID is, what is the age of the user, what is the average GPA of the user, and so on, right? So keeping that in mind, let's say I don't want to select star. I just want to select the name, the login, and the GPA. Then what I'm going to do, I'll simply have to write the column names. Okay, I'll simply have to write the column names over here. So I'm going to write name, I'm going to write login, and I'm going to write age, and oh no, sorry, I said GPA from students. If I do this, only the selected columns will be referred to. This is one of the ways in which you can do feature extraction. Okay, feature extraction is something which we'll look into later on. Feature extraction is usually done statistically, but when you are doing a sampling from the database, you're taking a sample out of a huge, let's say, population. Let's say in this table we have only 3 entries. Let's say in my college, if I remember, in one batch we used to had 330 students from the 7 departments which we had. So per year we had 330 students. We had 4 years, right? So it's kind of a BTech course. So 330 multiplied by 4 is going to be the number of students in the students table. Do I really need all of them to train my model or to do the statistical finding? The answer is no. We know that we are going to infer about the population from the sample. So I take a sample. So when you are doing sampling, these things will really be useful. These are very childish. It sounds really very childish. Okay, but when we actually do coding, right, these are things which matters the most. Simple things are going to affect the most. Okay. The second thing is, I just want to know from this table, let's say, I just want to know what is the average, okay, what is the average GPA of all the students. So what I do, I select the average of the column name is GPA from the table, which is students. Okay, provided there is a function called average applicable to MySQL, I can run this command, right, and I can get the output. In some of the database, the average function is written as AVG. Maybe that is the case with MySQL. I don't know. Okay, I have not gone through the documentation right now. Let me try. See, select average does not exist, right? So maybe that is not the function name. Okay, maybe I will try with AVG. Okay, now I get the average value, which is 3.6333 something. I did not specify how many points after the decimal it is going to show. So that's why it has taken a default. Okay, default of whatever configuration it has. Right. Now, I just want to know if this was clear to you. So this is one of the functions which is also known as aggregates. Okay, these functions are called aggregates, and there will be a lot of such kind of aggregation functions that we're going to use. Example given, I took an example of my college where I said that in every year we had 330 students per year, right? So first year has 330, second year has 330, and so on. And there are 4 years. So how do I select the count of students who are there? I select a count star from students. Okay, what is this query doing? Is that it is simply going through the table, irrespective of unique or non-unique value. It is giving me a count of how many rows are there in the set, same as this output, right? But if I just change one thing, okay, if I just change one thing, GPA, if I just change one thing, okay, here also it is actually representing it as this, because while taking a number, it actually represents each and every number as a unique number. So that's why it is giving it a count 3. But imagine you have two names which are the same. Okay, let's say the name of the first student and the 25th student is the same, right? And if you take a count of students, so you can also take a count of inside the bracket, you can put the name of a column as well. If you do that, then the unique values or the count of the values within that column will be presented to you. It doesn't matter whether there will be uniqueness or not. But how do you enforce a uniqueness is using keywords like this. If you do a keyword like distinct, now what it is doing, it is taking count of only the distinct values which is there in the column GPA. Here in this case, you see the distinct values are 3.5 and 3.9. Right, so that's why now the output does not match with the total number of rows in the table. Okay, this is really very important. If you want to know the unique number, this is how you can find out unique number of anything. Let's say unique number of students, unique number of products, unique number of cities, and so on. Okay, this is usually useful when where you have, let's say, column which in each and every row may have a specific group or classes of data, right? Then we have other such similar functions as well. Example given, I took a aggregate function. Okay, I took an aggregate function which is average, right? I can take the max and I can take the mean, and I can combine them as well. So min, max, GP in the same line. I'm trying to find out in the same query, in the same statement. I want to know what is the minimum GPA, what is the maximum GPA. I can see that clearly, right? I can even give them names. Okay, I can even give them names. So I can give them identifiers with a keyword called as. I'll say mean GPA, and I'll call max GPA as max GPA. If I do this, you see the name of the column. So earlier the name of the column was simply the name of the function. Now it has changed to my custom. Okay, so I have already customized it, hence the output has changed. This is quite useful when we are going to at a later date extract this data out of this database as a CSV, then it will come useful, right? So this is how we are going to mostly work with the databases throughout. Okay, throughout this is what we are going to do. Now we will do something more and then we can make a close for today. I'll just see the tables once more, and then we are going to look at something which is, let's say, select star from course. Let's look at one more very common function, or no, that is not applicable on this. So let's start from students. Okay, let's look at one more very common function. So I know there is a problem with the name column now, at least with the case, let's say, sensitivity. So how can I fix this? Select upper name from students. Yeah, hi Rohi, go ahead.
Yeah, hello. So earlier, when you type describe students, it said null. So it means ideally null values should be allowed.
Yes,
But when you entered only two values, it did not take that as a valid entry.
true.
How is that?
Yeah, so that's
Uh,
what I said there, right? That I have 5 columns. The rest 3 columns don't have a default value. I think we don't have time now, Rohi. So maybe we can continue on our chat window, or let's say tomorrow. Yeah, is that
okay,
fine?
okay, sure.
Is that fine? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, friends.
Thanks, Swami.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thanks,
Good